So could the government actually ban crypto? I mean, really, it's the big question, right? The one that hangs over this whole space. And to find the answer, we can't just look at what's coming. We actually have to look back at a long history of money, power, and government control. And it all kicks off with a story that might hit a little too close to home.
Just imagine it. You wake up one morning, grab your coffee, open the paper, and boom, the thing you've been saving in, the asset you worked hard for, is suddenly illegal, outlawed, overnight, by your own government. And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. This literally happened to Americans back in 1933. So that brings us right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Could history repeat itself, but this time with crypto? With all the nervous chatter from governments about digital assets, you have to wonder, could they pull the same exact move on all of us holding crypto? Is that even possible? Okay, so to really get a handle on this threat, we have to understand the precedent that was set. And for that, we need to travel back in time, back to the absolute darkest days of the Great Depression. And listen, this whole thing happened fast. I mean, incredibly fast. The country was in a total panic, right? A complete death spiral. People were yanking their gold out of banks that were already collapsing, which of course just made even more banks collapse. So FDR steps in and makes this huge, drastic move. First, he declares a bank holiday, shuts them all down. And then on April 5th, he signs Executive Order 6102. The order was simple. Turn in your gold for paper cash, or you could face 10 years in prison. No joke. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just about stopping the bank runs. Not at all. This was a very, very clever two-step heist. Step 1, the government confiscates all the private gold. Step 2, well, just 9 months later, they jack up the official price of that gold by almost 70%. What does that do? It instantly devalues the paper money they just forced on everyone. The government made a killing, and the ordinary people who played by the rules, they got wiped out. It was absolutely ruthless. And yeah, it worked.
Okay, so that's the story of physical gold. But what about private digital money? Is there a story there? You bet there is. And understanding why it failed is absolutely key to understanding why Bitcoin was designed the way it was. Let's talk about the ghost of e-gold. Way before Bitcoin was even a glimmer in anyone's eye, back in 1996, there was this thing called e-gold. It was a pretty brilliant idea, actually. It let you send and receive ownership of real physical gold over the internet, and people loved it. By 2004, it had 2 million users. But, and this is a huge but, it had one fatal flaw. It was totally centralized. You had a company, you had servers, you had bank accounts. Basically, you had a single throat to choke. And that central point of failure is everything. As one expert put it, when money has a link to the real world like that, authorities can just walk in, confiscate things, regulate, intimidate, you name it. And that is exactly what happened to e-gold. The US government came in, used the Patriot Act, and slammed them with charges of being an unlicensed money transmitter. And just like that, poof, the party was over. So the big lesson here, the key takeaway, is that Bitcoin was designed from the ground up to not be e-gold. It was a direct response to that failure. Think about it. E-gold had centralized servers you could unplug. Bitcoin has a decentralized network. E-gold had a company you could sue or arrest. Bitcoin is controlled by its users. The ghost of e-gold is basically Bitcoin's origin story. It's why it was built to resist censorship from day one. Okay, so this brings us to the real meat of this explainer. We've seen these historical precedents, right? So why haven't governments just banned crypto already? Well, it turns out there are 5 key defenses that make today's world a completely different ballgame than 1933 or the days of e-gold. Defense number 1, and this is probably the most important one. A ban is just, well, it's technically pretty much impossible to pull off completely. There's no big red switch to turn it off. As long as you have an internet connection, you can send and receive transactions. Sure, governments can try to block websites, but people can just use VPNs or decentralized exchanges to get around that. And the code itself, it's open source. It's out there. For many people, that code is a form of speech. It's just information, available to anyone, anywhere. All right, defense number 2 is all about the money. Just pure economic gravity. We're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar asset class now. Billions of dollars move through this ecosystem every single day. To ban that, that means you're consciously deciding to walk away from a massive wave of innovation, tons of high-paying tech jobs, and, let's not forget, a huge pile of taxable revenue. It's just a lot of economic activity to say no thanks to. Defense number 3 is actually from the government's own point of view, and it's that regulation is just a smarter play than outright prohibition.
Think about it. A ban doesn't actually make the activity disappear. It just pushes it underground, into the shadows, where regulators can't see anything. That just creates more risk for everyone. If you create legal frameworks, you actually get more control and visibility. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's true.
Okay, defense number 4, geopolitical competition. This is a big one. You've got countries all over the world, places like Singapore, Switzerland, the UAE, that are tripping over themselves to become crypto-friendly hubs. They want the talent, they want the capital. So if you're a major world power and you decide to ban it completely, you risk getting left in the dust in a sector that's looking more and more strategically important for the future of finance.
And this quote just nails it, right? Banning crypto is equivalent to banning the internet in the 1990s. That really puts the stakes in perspective. The potential cost of missing out is just too massive to ignore. And that brings us to our 5th and final defense, plain old political reality. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people around the world who own some crypto now. That includes a huge chunk of voters in a lot of democracies. Can you imagine a politician trying to make criminals out of that many of their own citizens, especially younger voters? It would be politically toxic. The blowback from that kind of overreach would be immense. So, okay, we've got these 5 powerful defenses, but are they just theory? Or have they actually been put to the test? Well, turns out we have the perfect real-world stress test. China's massive attempt to build a Great Wall around crypto. So back in 2021, China went all in. They announced a massive crackdown on Bitcoin mining and trading. And let's be real, if any government on Earth had the power to successfully ban crypto, it would be China, with its incredible level of state control. So what happened? Well, take a look at this. This shows the Bitcoin network's total computing power, what we call the hash rate. When China dropped the ban hammer, the hash rate inside China, as you can see, completely plummeted. But look what happened everywhere else. The network didn't even flinch. The miners just packed up their gear and moved. They went to North America, to Central Asia, all over the world. The network didn't just survive the attack, it actually got stronger. It became more decentralized, more robust than ever before. Yeah, this line from a research report just says it all. Long Bitcoin, short the banners. It perfectly sums up the outcome. History has shown time and again that betting against Bitcoin by trying to ban it is a losing game. China's ban was a total failure. In fact, it actually helped kill the whole myth that China secretly controlled Bitcoin. So when you put all of this evidence together, it really seems like we've been asking the wrong question this whole time. The conversation is moving on from this simple black and white idea of a ban. I mean, if a total ban is basically impossible to enforce, bad for the economy, and political suicide, then what is the future here? The real battle isn't about whether to ban it. It's about how to deal with it. Regulation, taxes, integration, that's the real fight ahead. The big challenge now for everyone involved, investors, developers, governments, is figuring out exactly how these new digital assets are going to fit into the world we already have. But let's leave you with one last kind of bigger thought. From the very beginning, Bitcoin was built to be more than just money. I mean, the very first block ever created had a newspaper headline embedded in it. It's a communication protocol. It's a way for people to connect and transact without anyone in the middle. And there's this big legal argument that code is speech. So if that's true, what does it mean for a global network whose only job is to run code? Maybe, just maybe, this whole debate isn't really about money at all. Maybe it's about the future of our most fundamental rights in a world that's going digital.